Iris Waichler. Fascinating discussion with Iris. She's a caregiver to the aging. She has a wonderful story about how her mother passed, but also just how there's burnout there. I ask, what are the things to say when you're talking to somebody who has, infertility issues or, some kind of calamity? What are the wrong things to say to try to comfort somebody in a time of, emotional or family illness or some tragedy or some impact? And she's been doing it for 40 years. She's written 4 books. We talk about her latest book, but another prime example of somebody who went through an aging and dying parent and loved one and just didn't keep that information but wrote about it and writes articles and helps others with it. That's the mark of a remarkable person in my view, certainly. About self-care, about how caregivers don't take care of themselves as well. But it's just a wonderful conversation with Iris. So enlightening and so inspiring and impactful. I really, really enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because I was working way too much. Before you know it, I found myself 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. Took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People think there's some secret. Ask me, how'd you lose that weight? Like there's some secret. There is no secret. How'd I lose the weight? Just one word: discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends, colleagues convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission: how do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually ask them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Yes, Iris Waichler. So excited to talk to you. Iris, what is your favorite film? You have film as your hobbies. What's your favorite?
Well, I have so many. I don't know that I can say I have a favorite film. I have a list of top 10. The Pawnbroker is one.
We
I
had
love
Mr. Redford that just died.
Yes, well, I loved Butch Cassidy and the Sundance
Yeah,
Kid. I loved The
yes.
Sting. I loved HUD. I,
HUD.
I'm a huge fan of films. I go to film festivals.
Yeah, really.
I go to a documentary film festival every year in Missouri, and it's just a great escape, and it's a great way to learn about the world and about life and about yourself.
Would you ever consider making one?
No,
You're an
I have
author.
no talent in that area at all. So I will spare the world.
I guess it's good to know your limits.
I'm very good about knowing my limits.
In this fast-paced MSP landscape, how do you stay ahead? Introducing MSPinfluencer.com, your ultimate hub for MSP news, insights, and community connection, powered by Forza Dash. More than 75,000 MSPs subscribe to our MSP Influencer Pulse weekly newsletter, staying informed and ahead of industry trends. Tune in to emerging podcasts from Joey Pinz and leading MSP voices, offering essential tips, powerful insights, and success stories. Explore our multi-authored blogs, crafted specifically for MSP leaders, delivering fresh perspectives and actionable strategies. Celebrate excellence with the industry-leading Forza-MSP Influencer Awards, recognizing innovation, leadership, and impact in the MSP community. Join thousands of MSP professionals who trust MSPinfluencer.com to grow their business and expand their networks. MSPinfluencer.com, where today's MSP leaders connect, collaborate, and conquer, all powered by the Forza Dash platform, helping MSP vendors work effectively with MSPs and helping MSPs grow. Now, Iris, you're over 40 years as a medical social worker. I mean, and now, well, I shouldn't say now, but you kind of shift. Well, you made a role reversal, I guess we should say, right? The theme of your book, your last book, because you've written 4, I believe. But,
The 4th one hasn't come out yet. We're doing the final edits now. Yeah,
wow.
It'll hopefully be out at the beginning of the year in January.
So why is it so rewarding to be a social worker?
It is incredible. Well, when I was little, I lived near a hospital, and I said one day I want to work there, and I didn't know what I was going to do.
Wow.
And I learned I was sucked at math, and I knew I couldn't be a doctor and I couldn't be a nurse. But the beauty of being a social worker is every day is different. You feel like you're generally making a difference in people's lives. And
Mm.
as you work with people, you learn a lot about yourself. It's very rewarding, and it's not a one-sided sort of thing. And a lot of my career was on physical medicine rehab. So I was working with patients that had catastrophic illnesses.
Hmm.
So they had burns, they had head injuries, they had amputations and strokes. And so to be there with them and to see how resilient they were and to help, but they were so lost. And so I sort of saw myself as a guide, and I would help them through it, help them feel less alone, teach them what to expect, and also help their families because they didn't know what to do. It's just a totally overwhelming experience when you have a medical crisis. And that's what my career has been about, helping people in crises, medical crises. I work with people with infertility, uh, lots of healthcare issues, and making them realize that whatever they need to face doesn't mean that it has to be the end. It's just
Mm.
teaching them how to adjust and how to adapt and how to do things in a new way and look at things in a different way. And to see how far people can come in circumstances they couldn't have imagined overcoming is the greatest feeling in the world.
Hmm.
And then I did that for many years. And then when my daughter was born, that's when I switched more to writing and doing podcasts and doing seminars and workshops to help people. And the caregiving thing came naturally to me because my mother and father became ill. I also had two friends that were my age in their 40s, and they got ill
Hmm.
and had terminal diagnoses, and we were their family of choice. And so I was there to with others to help them to die with dignity. And so working with them, it's just amazing. One of the most amazing things about caregiving is there's an intimacy to it.
Hmm.
And when you're with someone, a lot of the barriers that we have in our life and a society drop when you're with someone who's facing death. And it's challenging, it's hard, but there can be some of the most beautiful moments you can imagine as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to kind of say it, Iris, but when you're talking to a woman who is having infertility issues, I mean, this is, their life most likely. They dreamed of having offspring, and now they might not be able to. I mean, how do you reframe that? I mean, that's oh my goodness, this
Well,
is tough.
one of the reasons that I'm familiar with it is I went through infertility.
Mm.
And so I have a compassion and understanding for it. Um, and I'll tell you this, part of it is education, part of it is understanding what options are available, because when you're going through infertility, there's this incredible sense of hopelessness, and there's always this
Right.
sense that you're alone. And
Mm.
I was doing counseling in groups with people with infertility, and then I decided to reach a wider group, and I wrote a book about it.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you, I got a letter from a woman in Sri Lanka.
Wow.
She got my book and she said to me, she said when she started reading it, she started to cry. And the reason she started to cry was because she felt she was the only one that had ever been through it.
Hmm.
And where she lived and in her culture, she wasn't allowed to talk about it with anybody.
Hmm.
And once she realized she wasn't alone and the feelings she was experiencing were normal, she felt she was able to get through it.
Wow. Are you a fan of the 12-step program?
I'm familiar with it. Yes, I know about it. And I think it's a very powerful tool for many, many, many people.
The hang up on some, of course, is the God issue, right? So those who are
Correct.
atheists
Correct.
trying to work around that.
Absolutely. That's why it doesn't work for everybody.
Doesn't work for everybody, right, right. Does everybody have to hit kinda rock bottom, do you feel, to in order to make a change?
Not necessarily rock bottom, but I think there has to be a sense of helplessness and hopelessness
Hmm.
before you're willing to be open to considering ways to move forward.
So when you're working with somebody who infertility, whatever it may be, what are the things that you don't do?
You don't say that, I know how you feel.
Ah.
You don't say to them, since we're talking about religion, you don't say to someone, God planned it this way when you can't have a
Mm.
child. You don't say to them, you'll get over it.
Hmm.
You don't say to them, just go on and something good will happen. It'll work
Mm.
itself out.
Mm.
Those are some of the worst things you can say to people, and particularly after a death, some of those things can be incredibly painful when someone's grieving. And in all these areas that we're talking about, there's a sense of grief. There's grief with alcoholism and drug
Mm.
addiction. There's grief with infertility. There's grief when you've lost your leg. All those things there's a sense of loss, and there's a death of a part of you. And so
Right.
you have to acknowledge that piece of it, I think, before you can move on.
Wow. So if you don't say those things, and every one you said made me cringe. So I guess it would be the opposite that you do say.
Yeah, and I don't want to condemn people that say those things, because
Right.
we all have a sense, hopefully, many of us,
Right.
most of us
Right.
have a sense of compassion, and we all want to help. And people are very uncomfortable with silence. So
Right.
sometimes they want to feel that silence. And so they may say some of those things, hoping that that will help, but and with no malice intent in it, but that can really make a difference. So what you say is, tell me about what it's like for you. What has this been like for you? Tell me about
Mm.
what I can do to help. Tell me about what you hope. Tell me
Hmm.
about what's the thing you're most afraid of. Those kinds of things. So the person that's experiencing the loss or the grief can say to you, this is what I need. This is what I want. This is what I hope. Uh, those things can be immeasurably helpful. And everyone, when you're experiencing a crisis and you've experienced loss and grief, we all want a lifeline. We all want someone that will connect with us, even if it's someone to sit there and let you cry
Hmm.
and just be with you in silence. It's an enormously supportive thing to do. You can't underestimate the value of that. And so those kinds of things really make a difference. And sometimes one of the problems that we have is, this is true of caregiving and a lot of other things, is that we don't ask for help because we think it's a sign of weakness,
Hmm.
or we're not sure what to ask for,
Hmm.
or those kinds of things. And so sometimes it behooves a person that's close to someone who's experiencing pain and suffering to sort of bridge that gap. So for example, my husband's I've been taking care of my husband because he's had very serious back issues and pain. And my dear friends said, "What can we do for you?" And I said, "Right now, there's not really much you can do." And without me asking, they put together a meal train, so they kept bringing us dinner for
Hmm.
like 2 weeks, and it was incredibly helpful. And
Right.
I didn't ask. They took that step and they did that for us. They said to me, "This is what we're going to do. Is there any food you can or cannot eat?"
Mm.
And the burden that was lifted was really incredible. And I think that's a really good lesson for people. It's okay to ask, but even if you don't ask, give permission to the people that are closest to you that you can count on to help out.
I remember Iris. My sister had passed in an auto accident, 20 years ago, and at the funeral, people with best intentions come up to me, but they really say the I'm going to use the word dumb, but just oh, I really took this death really hard.
Yeah,
It's like, I mean,
made you cringe, I'm sure.
oh my god, how about her parents that are right there? I mean,
Yeah,
like, well, oh, sorry, like what's my, yeah. So again, I know they have best intention. They're not really not thinking. They don't know how to deal with it, but perhaps just take a step back and consider the whole circumstance.
right. And if you're not sure what to say, it's okay to say, "I'm not sure what to say to you."
Yeah, very
And or
interesting.
give them a hug or touch
Right.
their arm, or just that little gesture says to them that they know that you want to
Hmm.
be helpful, that you're there with them emotionally, that you're supporting them.
Oh, that's really good. I don't know what to say. Yeah. Yeah. I kind of level it out a bit. How do
We're,
you?
we're
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say we're heading to a funeral in a couple of days. A friend of ours suddenly died of a heart attack.
Wow.
And he's younger than me. He's several years younger than me, and so we're so I was thinking about his wife and what to say to his wife in a circumstance like
Mm.
that. And it's going to be that kind of a thing. I'm going to look at her and see try to sense what she needs, but um, probably I'll say I don't know what to say, because in a situation like that, when it's all of a sudden, and people talk about the differences between a sudden death and a slow death kind of thing. And there are differences, but some might say one is harder than the other. I've had a lot of patients that have had progressive illnesses where they have Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or some form of dementia, and where you know that the situation is going to get worse. And some people feel that that's really tough.
Mm.
But is it tougher to just lose someone in a car crash or
Mm.
have a heart attack? They're all painful. They're all hard, and we all grieve differently, and
Mm.
we all mourn differently. And it's important also to recognize that and not judge how a person is mourning, and give them permission to do what they need to do.
I know you don't know me that well, Iris, but I have this, ongoing discussion with my daughters, and they're in their 20s, and I say, at my funeral, I want you two to be out, at the door, and when somebody comes up, ask for their name, and when they give you the name, I want you to look at a list and say, "Oh, you're not on here." And if they are offended, send them away. If they laugh, let them come in. Because if they're offended, then they don't know me.
That's great. I love that. I love that. And
And I'll be
what gift you're giving your
see that?
daughters.
The gift of laughter, because those who would get it would know me and would laugh and enjoy it and go into that as in a happy mood. Because let's talk about the fun that we had with Joe. That's the idea here. So anyway, I haven't yet put it in my will, but I have tossed it around a bit.
Celebration of your life. A
Yes,
celebration,
that's what it
yeah.
should be.
I was at the cemetery visiting my parents' graves, and do you know what good humor is? It's an ice
The
cream
ice cream?
truck.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. This good humor truck comes in, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, boy, did he make a wrong turn. And he pulls up, and I noticed there was a funeral going on. Everyone went over to the truck and got an ice cream bar
Wow.
and came back to the grave. And I thought, I want that at my funeral.
That's awesome. That is great. That is absolutely great. Yeah. How do you avoid burnout, Iris?
Well, the burnout piece is really important, and it's the hugest mistake that caregivers make is they allow themselves to get burnt out. I mean, that's partly because as women, we 65% of caregivers are women, and we're so good at taking care of everyone else that we suck at taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And so the best way to avoid burnout is to pay attention to your body and your mind, because there are
Mm.
signs when burnout is happening. Um, you have digestive problems, you have headaches, you have short temper, you get more irritable, you can't sleep, or you sleep too much, or you're anxious, or you're sad, or you're depressed. So the best way to avoid burnout, whatever you're dealing with, is to pay attention. And when you see those kinds of symptoms happening, if you're isolating yourself when you're normally a social person, for example, when you see changes in your behavior, your thinking, that's the time when you have to step in and say, I need to make a change.
Hmm.
And the change can be a lot of different things. You can on your own change your behavior or try to figure out what's causing the burnout. You can reach out to people that are close to you if you're lucky enough to have people like that in your life that you can talk to honestly. And if not, counseling and therapy is a really important way to get the help that you need. And one of the things that counseling does in those situations is they give you the tools to use to help recognize how to change your thinking. Because lots of time burnout is because of the way we think about things. And
Hmm.
if we can reframe those thoughts, it makes it easier to manage, and it makes us feel like we're more in control. Because normally when we're burned out because things are happening and we feel like we have no control over them.
Mm.
And so I think that can really, really make a difference.
We see this a lot, or I've talked to many like mothers, for example, who, put their kids first and they don't take care of themselves, and they gain weight, they're not healthy. And I could see how caregivers that could happen to that too, just avoiding that burnout. Are there more female than male caregivers?
65% are women.
Hmm.
Yeah, it usually falls to a woman to be the caregiver. And the other thing is, I think a lot of us, male or female, tell ourselves that if we need to ask for help, then that's a sign of weakness, or that's a
Mm.
sign that maybe we failed in some way. And that's what I mean about reframing the messages we give ourselves, because that's absolutely not true. And
Right.
particularly when you're a caregiver, there's so many stresses and you're balancing so many plates in your life. You might have a job, you might have a partner, you might have kids, so many things are going on, and and there's only 24 hours in the day, and you can't change that. And so it's really important to be fair to ourselves, be realistic about what we can and cannot do, and be comfortable asking for help without shaming ourselves or feeling guilty about it.
Real easy to say, right?
Easy to say, but and I know it's not always easy to do, but one of
Mm.
the messages you can give yourself if you're in a caregiving situation and these symptoms that we talked about are there, is given the state that I'm in, am I the best person to take care of my loved one? Am I the
Hmm.
and tell yourself that by taking care of myself, it'll help me take care of the other person. And that's what I mean about reframing the messages and rethinking things. It's a very selfless act to say, I need help. And people
Right.
don't think about it in that way, but it's really true. Our society is screwed up in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, but one
Yeah.
of them is that some of the messages we give, our culture gives people when they're in a situation, a vulnerable situation where they need help. Um, we have a lot of negative messages about asking for help or where we go for help and what that
Hmm.
means. And it can be a really powerful thing to do, life changing.
Generally speaking, are caregivers good patients or good caregivees,
Um,
recipients?
I think caregivers, generally speaking, can be better patients
Mm.
because they understand how difficult it is and how hard it is. Um, uh, so I would say yes. One of the things that the biggest mistakes that people make is, and that's why I loved what you said about your daughters and talking, opening that door. The biggest mistake that people make as caregivers is they don't start the caregiver conversation early enough.
Mm.
They wait until there's a crisis. And then all of a sudden, when things are just crazy and everyone's vulnerable and upset, and it's hard to do it then. So I always tell people, start when you're young, when there is no issues. My mom died when she was 56. She had cancer and it metastasized to her brain. So we never had that conversation with her. And we totally learned from it. And my dad and I sat down and I said exactly what you're doing. I said, what do you want?
Mm.
Do you want to age at home? What kind of a funeral do you want? Can you want us to be the ones helping you, or can we bring other people in, the professionals? And if it comes from a place of collaboration rather than confrontation, you don't want someone coming into their parents' house and say, this place is a pit. You can't take care of it. I'm bringing somebody in.
Hmm.
That door is going to shut in their face pretty quickly. But if you come in and you say, I I really love you. I want you to live the longest life you can with the most quality possible. I really want to know what you want so we can put a plan together that you will like and appreciate, and I will understand, and then I can help implement it. And that is an amazing scene when that happens and it opens the door. And even if the first time you say all that, your parents say, oh, I don't even want to think about it, because we don't want to think about mortality. We don't want to think about losing the people we love. But you've opened the door even just a crack, and down the road you can try to revisit it, and it makes it
Hmm.
easier to set those things up.
Hey, Joey Pinz here. Want to take your podcast experience to the next level? I'm excited to invite you to become a YouTube member. It's the absolute best way to support the channel and enhance your connection. Join our amazing community and unlock the incredible perks, custom loyalty badges, exclusive emojis, and priority comment replies. Your voice will always stand out. Be the first to watch new videos with early access, receive special membership shoutouts, and get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and updates. Dive into content available only to our members, special videos, deep dives, and insider perspectives. Engage directly with me. Suggest podcast topics you want to hear, and even get personalized video shoutouts. Hit the join button right now and become part of something special. Let's build this amazing community together. I can't wait to welcome you as a new member. Join the Joey Pinz family today. Iris, I heard you tell the story of your mother passing, how she kind of held on for all your siblings. Can you share that? That was wonderful.
Yeah. So my mother's had breast cancer and it metastasized to her brain. And so I had gotten her into hospice. We were in hospice and she was very, very sick. And the doctor came in one morning and said to me, she's not going to make it more than a couple hours. This was early in the morning. And at that time, my sister was in New York and my brother was in California. And I ran to the phone and I called them and said, get here as fast as you can. And I went over to my mom's bedside and I said to her, they're on the way. And I tell you, I've worked with patients for many years and I've worked with people that were dying. And I've seen it. I really believe that people, when they're in that situation, have some control about exactly
Wow.
when they die.
Wow.
I've seen patients with family members at their bedside the whole day, and a family member goes out to get a cup of coffee and the patient dies. Because some people want family to be there, some people don't. So I told my mom my siblings were on the way. Late that night, my brother and sister arrived, and my mother had been on morphine. And there's a moment when that often happens when people are dying. It's sort of a twilight moment before they die where they become more alert and more coherent. And my mother just lit up. She was there.
Wow.
And she was a very loving mother. And so I got to say goodbye to her, and my little sister did before my older brother and sister came. They got to say goodbye. We all gathered around my mom's bed, and then shortly later, she died.
She held on.
She held on because she knew they were coming and she wanted to say goodbye. And that's what I'm talking about, I guess, when I say, I know it sounds weird, about intimacy. And those moments are really precious. I'll never forget that. She knew we were all by her side. She got to say everything she wanted to say. And it meant the world to us. It helped us to grieve when she was gone because we felt there was nothing unsaid. I'll tell you another story about that if you want.
Please.
We had a dear friend who was my age who was diagnosed with a very aggressive brain tumor, and he was Buddhist. And a person in his Buddhist temple gave him a bracelet to wear, and he told him that when you're ready to die, just take the bracelet off.
Wow.
And my friend was incredible. He was one of the most fearless people I know. He was not afraid of dying at all. When I arranged for hospice to come in, and the social worker came in and said to me, how's he doing? And I said, he is doing great, but you should see for yourself. Go talk to him. And she went in and she said, how are you? And he said, I believe that in this world, we're like this. He said, when I die, the world will be like this. And she smiled and she walked away and she said, you don't need my help. And she left and she never came back. But one of the things that I did, his brother was terrified of losing him and wanted him to keep fighting to live. He didn't understand how someone could accept the fact that they were going to die. And I'd spent a lot of time helping his brother get to where he was. And we were, when he was close to death, it was me, his brother, and my husband in the room. And I knew he was going to die very shortly. And I called his brother over, and his brother took off the bracelet.
Whoa.
And our friend died a couple minutes later.
Whoa.
Yeah. It was so moving to be there, and it helped his brother accept his death. He understood. He understood what it meant to him, and it helped him to grieve after his brother was gone.
Wow.
And I know it sounds odd, but that's sort of what I mean sometimes. I have as a social worker, I felt like I had such a sense of privilege to be with people that were in those sort of situations. It's so moving, and it's so incredible to be a part of that. It's a very personal, intimate moment when those kinds of things happen. I had another friend who I helped die, who was my age, who was family of choice, helped her, and she was also in hospice. And our hospital was near the beach. It was a hospital I worked at. So they'd let us take her out to go to the beach in a wheelchair because she loved the beach.
Right.
And we'd go there together, and we knew she was getting sicker, and we brought a shoebox with us, and we filled the shoebox with sand and shells, and we brought it back to her room. And when she was too sick to leave the bed, she'd say, "I want to go to the beach." And we'd pull out the sandbox.
Hmm.
She'd close her eyes, she'd put her hands in the box, and she'd play with the shells and things that we collected. And we'd be at the beach
Mm,
together. And we'd
mm.
talk about how warm the sun was, what the sound of the waves were. And she came up with the idea of doing that. And I loved that. I loved that. And it brought her such peace and joy. And as a person sitting next to her, being there with her when she was doing it, it was just amazing.
Yeah, the way my father's from Europe, and the way they kind of treat elderly is very different than we do here in the States. And even in like Japan, where anyway, there's a lot of difference. But here in the States, we have to get others involved. What do you recommend for those that are starting to have aging parents that may be starting to decline?
A few things. Educate yourself about the reason for the decline,
Mm,
because if you know what you're dealing with or what's going to come, it's easier to prepare for it. That's number one. Secondly, make sure you have a support system in place. Identify family or friends that can help out and what their skill sets are. You may have someone that's not great at doing physical care, but is brilliant as far as looking at a hospital bill or doing insurance. So there may be a skill set of people immediately close to you that can help with those, because there's all kinds of things that need to be done. Also, for people that have no one or don't know where to begin, I always like to talk about this. There's people across the country that are called geriatric care managers,
hmm.
and they're people like me that are sort of experts at knowing about the medical healthcare stuff, but they're also experts at knowing what services are in your immediate area. So if you put in a zip code and you put in aginglifecare.org, you will get the names of the experts in your area. And
Wow.
it's a beautiful thing. They'll come in and they'll direct you about exactly what help you need and where to find it. And particularly in the world we live in now, where oftentimes families are separated, there's a distance. It's really helpful to have someone locally that you can talk to. They can mediate between family and the patients if there's differences in their opinion about what needs to be done. They can give the family updates if they're out of town. They can locate the help that they need. And so that's another thing too, is to educate yourself about what programs are available. We all in our areas, most of us have area on aging offices too, and that's a really good resource. And also, there's one of the beautiful things about technology is you can go online when you're feeling very alone or you don't know what to do. For example, if it's about caregiving, the Family Caregiver Alliance or the National Alliance for Caregiving, they're online and they have a ton of resources. They have chat rooms. So if you feel guilty about getting out, you can still go online and talk to people that are in the same situation that you are and get tips about what to do. You can feel less alone knowing that they understand what you're going through, and they can give you information about how to cope. It's a really really wonderful thing to do. And also there are local support groups too for people that are losing a loved one or don't know what to do, and it's good to try to find that kind of information out as
Mm,
well. I think the hardest part is when you feel alone or you don't have a lot of support.
right.
And it's so overwhelming. It's so hard when you're, and also at the same time, you have to deal with the loss of someone you really
Mm,
care about and love. I think the other thing I would say, Joe, is people don't think about it this way, but what I tell people is to try to put joy into the moments that you're caregiving. And I know
Mm.
that sounds kind of silly, but it really does. It's not. If you have someone that love to dance and they can dance and they love Frank Sinatra, put on Frank Sinatra and dance with
Mm.
them. If they love flowers and there's a garden nearby or in the backyard, go out in the backyard with them. Create joyful moments. If they have a favorite movie, watch the favorite movie with them. My cousin died a few years ago, and her son was with her all the time. And every week he would pull out a photo album that was full of old family photos. And even people who have dementia, that old memory is there, it's deeply embedded.
Mm.
And so she looked at photos and said, "Oh, that's cousin so and so. Let me tell you a story about when we went out."
Mm.
And she reminisced with him. And he said it brought him so much joy. He heard stories that he didn't know. She loved telling the stories. She loved talking about her life. And it was really beautiful thing. And he still talks about it, remembers that as some of his favorite moments with his mom.
Role reversal: How to take care of yourself and your aging parents. Book you wrote. What do you want readers to come away with?
Um, I want them to come away. It's partly this my story of taking care of my father, and what I do is I use that as a springboard to talk about all the challenges that we face as caregivers when that role reversal happens. They'll come away with information about how to cope. They'll come away with information about uh, all the areas they need to face, things like planning a funeral, things like what about insurance. I want them to come away with a plan about how to be a good caregiver, and a plan about how to take care of themselves, and also how to take care of the person that they love that they're facing
Mm.
losing. And it's a really tough, because when we're caregivers, we lose our loved ones twice. We lose them when we get that initial diagnosis, and then we lose them literally when they die. So facing it twice is
Hmm.
really hard. And the other message I want to give them is to do everything you can to take care of yourself as much as you take care of the person that you're losing.
Real important note. My father passed of Alzheimer's, and his what he remarried, and his wife, stepmother, said he was starting to decline, and she said, "I got to take him back to Italy. I have more help there. Everybody can help." And I said, "I completely understand." And I said, "Bye, Dad. I love you." And he reciprocated. And then when we zoomed afterwards, he didn't recognize me. So I really felt that I had the chance to say goodbye. So you're right. There's more than one, right? There's kind of that one, and then and then he passed last year.
Mm,
Uh,
I'm so glad you got that opportunity.
yeah, yeah, and like you said before, so that, I mean, that's a disease of the mind, deterioration, but then, um, oh my goodness, the other that affects your body you just mentioned, I can't, it just slipped my mind for some reason. So it can either affect your mind, it can affect your body, or you can get done with a car crash. There's no real good way. It's just the way it is, and you deal with it and do the best you can.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, when you write, you said you got inspired by this book because you took some time off and you said, okay, instead of doing it, let's write the book. Is that generally how you've written? You said you've written one in the 80s, you're writing another one now. You've received so many awards, by the way, Iris. It's very impressive. Do you like
I do.
writing?
I've come to really like it a lot. Yeah. I've written hundreds of articles too, about healthcare related topics. I kind of said with role reversal that was going to be my last book, and I meant it at the
No.
time. And then I have a friend who's a firefighter, and he knew my background, and he started sharing really traumatic stories about his work. And because he knew I could handle it, because I faced a lot of trauma in my work. And anyway, what happened with that was it really got me intrigued and interested in first responders and trauma, because
Hmm.
they face trauma over and over and over again.
Right. Right.
And what do they do with that, and who's there to help them, and how does it affect their families? So I started writing. That's how the birth of my last book, my latest book, came about. And so I interviewed a lot of first responders and their families, and I'm writing it for them so that they'll have a place that they can go to get the help they need and understand it better and recognizes the warning signs that we've talked about.
Hmm. All nonfiction. It would seem that you like to write that. Iris, the next phase, I'm just throwing something out here now, would be fiction, in that you would create a scenario and people that are a culmination of these people that you've interviewed, bring them all together and tell a story and tell how it could finally go out and write a nice piece of fiction. And that will be turned into a documentary.
That would be lovely, but I don't have a fiction mind.
No?
I have a nonfiction mind.
But
My
you could
books
bring these
are
people together,
I
right?
know, I
Bring them
know.
all together and say, okay, this is what happened. And anyway, I don't mean to convince you of something.
I wish I could write something like that.
Storyboard it a bit.
I would love that. My daughter's actually the fiction writer of the family.
Ah,
She could do that. She quizzes me with stories, and she takes, just like you're saying, tidbits out of my stories, and she
right.
applies them to her
Brings them
fiction
in.
world. But she has quite the imagination.
I say yes, you do need imagination, yeah, to bring it all together. And
Yeah,
I've talked to fiction writers, and Iris, the things they tell me is like, I had no idea this character was going to do this. I said, "What
yeah,
do you mean? What
yeah,
do you have to explain this to me?" They tell me all the time that, no, I have a beginning and I have an end. But the way they got there was very different than I thought, and the pen just started taking over, or the fingers, whatever. It's art and artistic
yeah.
process amazes me.
I've had the same. I have friends that are fiction writers. There's a group of us that are here. We always get together. I think I am the only nonfiction writer in the group, and it's exactly what happened. Their characters become real to them,
Right.
and they're like, "No, he wouldn't do that," and then they change the storyline. I have a friend. She's the most prolific writer. She's won over 60 book awards, and
Whoa.
as she's writing, she has another book in her head that she's written, she hasn't
Wow.
put down yet, and she does that's exactly what she does. She looks at where the character is in this book, and then she's thinking about the next book and where might it go, and then it turns out, no, no, I got to change it. He's got to go here instead of there. And I love that. I wish I could do that.
Yeah, it's just a different process. I
It
don't have
is.
it either. I don't have it either, by the way. But you mentioned before how technology helps and can bring this, some of this together, and some resources that are there. Has AI been a help at all in this area?
Um, Sort of a bit. The technology part that's really cool and really great is, again, for long distance caregivers, you can have programs in the home where, like, let's say your parents are living out of state, where the technology will tell you, well, mom didn't get up this morning,
Mm,
mom hasn't moved from this room to that room,
mm,
and so that kind of thing. And so it can help in that way. People can wear, maybe you've heard of or seen, they wear a necklace or like a little watch, and so if they fall they can call for help,
right.
that kind of thing. So technology can and does really help. And now with the new, like, Apple watches and stuff, people can can see a heartbeat, can see a
Amazing.
pulse. They can there's the I just saw that the new Apple Watch just came out last week, and apparently it can tell you if you're in atrial fibrillation.
Amazing.
It notes your heart rate, and if your heart rate is not where it should be, it gives you a message: see your doctor immediately. This is happening. So those are all wonderful, wonderful, great things. So that's not exactly AI, but it is technology, and that's getting better and better too.
Mm. Could an AI be a caregiver?
I, I would say no, based on, there's some lawsuits now about AI. There's really interesting cases right now. There's two young people, teenagers, that were using AI as a counselor. They were suicidal, and they were talking to AI. And one young man in particular, he was talking about how he was going to commit suicide and what was going to happen. And the young man said to the AI, maybe I should talk to somebody else. And the AI responded, no, you don't need to talk to anyone else. You're talking to me. And this kid was talking to AI about, he wanted to hang himself, what kind of rope to use, where to get, all that kind of stuff. And and God bless, what happened was the kid committed suicide, and
Yeah.
his parents had no idea, because AI advised him it's not programmed to be human. It's not programmed to pick up the idiosyncrasies and the messages that as therapists or counselors
Mm,
or social workers that we can recognize. And so I would say I don't want to rely on AI for those kinds of things. His family is suing the company, is
yeah.
suing Sam Altman's company right now because of the loss. And I think this young man's mother was a social worker,
Mm,
but she had no idea because all he
right.
did was talk to the AI.
Hmm. Are there good how's pharmaceuticals helping many patients?
It does, and one of the really great things it does now, my mother-in-law right now, she's 92 and she's having some cognitive issues. And so, for example, we're a little concerned that she's taking her medication properly.
Mm,
And so now you can go to a pharmacy and it will have all of your medications specially packaged. And it'll even say at 8 a.m., take this. And it'll say what the name of the medicine is, what the dose is, and what time you should take it.
wow.
So it's all divided up and it's all so because you put it in those little plastic containers Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's still it's not a guarantee that person's going to necessarily understand how to take them and when to take them. And so that's an example of an innovation that's really helpful. And in a lot of places they have those kinds of things available
Hmm.
if you ask.
So, I started my business back in the 90s, was working way too hard. Exactly what you said. I was taking care of the business, wasn't taking care of myself at all, and eating poorly and working long hours. And then I'm in front of the doctor. She tells me I'm at 340 pounds. So I had gained all this terrible amount of weight. And she says to me, if you don't lose this weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. So my daughter was just born. And so I spent the next 6, 7 months, lost about 120 pounds, kept it off. And when I tell this story, people always say, "What's your secret? What did you do?" And I always say, "Discipline." I got motivation, focus, routine. How does discipline play a role in your life, Iris?
Um, I'm so glad you asked that. And I was also thinking about discipline in terms of caregiving. And
Mm,
kudos for you for taking charge of your life and turning it around and doing what you've done. It's amazing. Um, I am really good at self-regulating. If I know I'm burned out or if I know
mm.
I always make time in my life to incorporate time to take care of myself. And that might be seeing a movie, it might be going out with a friend and having a glass of wine, it might be reading a book, whatever. I work out 3 times a week like a demon.
Wow,
I go to a gym. I just celebrated. I'm 71, but last year was my 70th birthday, and
wow.
I celebrated my birthday at my gym.
Good
They
for
have a
you.
really beautiful rooftop there that overlooks the Chicago skyline, and I wanted it to be there because I felt I was alive and as healthy as I am because of my time that I spent there.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to celebrate it and have like a full circle moment. So I'm very cognizant of that for based a lot on what I've seen over the years where people's lives changed in a millisecond. I try to spend as much time as I can with the people I care about. Every time I talk to my daughter, we end our text or our conversation with "I love you,"
Yeah.
and I want to make sure the people in my life know that I love them and that I feel that they love me as well.
After my sister passed, yeah, every conversation with my mother, and it ends with "I love you." Yeah, you never know. It may be the last time. Maybe the last words we see with each other. Um, Has there been anything, Iris, in the last it's an interesting perspective, by the way, on discipline that you have being a caregiver. Do you find that discipline would help with some of the afflicted, some of the patients?
It's tough. It sort of depends on the affliction.
Right.
When I
Of
knew I
course
was
it
going to
is.
be talking to you, I knew discipline was sort of kind of the core of who
Mm,
you are and what you do. So I really spent a lot of time thinking about where it fits in with the
mm.
world of aging and caregiving and how I was going to address that or how I would think about it. And what I would say is discipline fits in the sense that kind of what we've been discussing as a caregiver, you have to be disciplined enough to take care of yourself and be aware of your own needs and modulate what you're doing to maximize your health and well-being, both physically and mentally. That's really important. For the person that's ill, um, sometimes they're able to be disciplined, sometimes they're not. If it's a person that has serious Alzheimer's disease, for example, they're not going to be able to do that. Or if
Hmm.
it's a person that has ALS, the disease that eats away at muscles, so you may not be able to move your arms or legs, those folks um, may not be able to. But there's a guy who has ALS who's all over social media. His name, I think, is Brian Wallace, and he has ALS. And he is out there every day. Every day, he talks about why the world is a beautiful place
Mm.
and all of the things that he does. And you see him all over the place, traveling and doing all these things. And he's done as much as he can to manage his disease and get the most out of every day of his life. And he talks proudly about his ability and his desire to do that. And it's really wonderful. I love reading and seeing what he writes about and what he does. And a lot of it depends on the disposition of the person
Right.
too. If you have a person, what I found with my patients is if you were a stubborn person before you had a medical problem, you're going to be way more stubborn afterwards. Your personality doesn't really change. It gets stronger in whatever direction. So that also determines how you face whatever kinds of difficulties you have to face and how you move forward.
Has there been anything in the last month or so you changed your mind on?
Oh, wow, what a great question. What a great question. Um, I've been thinking a lot about this book and how I wanted to publish it and where I wanted to go and who I wanted to get it out to. And so I've changed my mind about how I was
Mm.
going to do that, and changed my mind thinking about what my goals were. And so, yeah, in that sense, I did change my mind.
Hmm. What motivates you? Iris?
What That's another great question. What motivates me is I feel incredibly lucky. My life has been blessed. I've
Hmm.
got people. My brother was just here. He lives in California, and his wife, and we were talking about how lucky we were to have the family that we do and to have what we have. My parents were incredible role models. When I was growing up, there wasn't a time that we didn't have some relative or someone living with us.
Really?
They wanted people to be there, and so there's this huge, strong sense of family and purpose in life. And so having a purpose in my life motivates me. I think that's super important for people that retire. The people that have the toughest time when they retire are people that
Mm.
felt they had purpose with work and then they stop and they don't know where to go with it. So having purpose motivates me. I've got a very young daughter and I want to be alive and healthy as long as I can for her. She's a
Mm.
huge motivating factor in my life. And so she's told me I'm not allowed to die, but
Good
I
for you.
know that's not going to happen. So I want to be as alive and as healthy as long as I can. So she motivates me a lot.
Hmm. Purpose, legacy, these are your motivators. So given those, how do you measure success, Iris?
I measure success. Well, your questions are really great, Joe. In terms of my professional life, the writing and the social
Mm.
working part of my life, I measure success by the number of people I'm able to reach. I try to reach as many people as I can. And Monday through Friday, for example, on my Facebook page and my author page, and I'm on LinkedIn, all those places. Monday through Friday, I post articles about aging and caregiving and infertility. And I want to get that information out to as often as I can to as many people as I can because I think there's a real need for it. None of us are getting younger,
Mm.
and there's between 45 and 53 million caregivers in our country right now.
Hmm.
A huge number, and so I want to help educate them and support them in any ways I can. So that's a huge motivator for me as well. Personally, what motivates me is I feel like the world is a really tough place to be right now. There's a
Hmm.
lot of challenges, and so I want to do what I can to make it a better place. It sounds corny, but I believe that it's true. I want to make a difference in the people's lives that are around me. So that's a motivation.
Want to show your love for discipline, inspiration, and the Joey Pinz podcast? Now's your chance. Introducing the brand new Joey Pinz merch store, where style meets discipline. Choose from premium apparel, cozy hoodies, stylish hats, durable bags, and your new favorite coffee mug, all featuring the iconic Joey Pinz logo. Perfect for podcast fans, discipline enthusiasts, or as unique gifts for friends and family. Every purchase supports the Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations podcast, helping us continue to inspire greatness and promote positive change. Visit joeypins.com/store today and wear your discipline proudly. Joey Pinz merch. Wear it, share it, and live it.
For me too.
Well, I mean, I love what you're doing. We need more people that are doing it, that have full hearts, that are dedicated to this. You experienced it yourself, and you could just take that knowledge and tuck it away, but no, you write about it, you talk about it, you act on it. That's the trait of a remarkable person in my book, Iris, and I thank you for it. Thank you so much for your time today. People
Thank you.
watching and listening, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, I have a number of sites. My author page is IWAICHLER WP Engine WPENGINE.com, and that's a place where you can get in touch with me. And there's a whole lot of information there. My Facebook page is www.facebook.com/role reversal 1. And I'm on Twitter as well, or X. It's X now. It's x.com/IRISWAICHLER /
Waichler. Yes.
Waichler.
Iris Waichler. Yes.
Yeah.
We'll make sure to put that all in the show notes. Iris, I thank you so much for your time. Next time I'm in the greater Chicago area, perhaps we'll get a cup of tea.
I would love that, Joe. I would love that. And thank you for all the great work that you're doing. You're touching a lot of people's lives and helping a lot of people.
I thank you so much.
I feel honored to spend time with you on your show.
I am honored, Iris. You be well. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources, and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.